you doing? Rob here. I want to show you my workflow for typically what is a portrait session on location. Very similar workflow to studio shots and or any of these portrait sessions I do on location. This is one of the images from our Family by the Falls promotion. I did a video on that. It's there. I thought it was pretty good. I hope you like it and agree with me on that one. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about lighting and my setup. So I'm shooting with the A7R II Sony 42 megapixel sensor. In one sense, that's kind of irrelevant. People sometimes, I find this is weird because sometimes I get graphic designers who are obsessed about how many megabytes is it. That's irrelevant. It's pixel count that matters. And pixel count is the same on this camera no matter what kind of image I'm shooting, but the megabytes vary depending on how much information is in the scene. So a high key image will be much smaller than a colorful image like this one. So it's variable. But anyways, I digress. The reason I wanted to show you this was to talk about lighting and to talk a little bit about my afterthoughts on how I'm creating what I consider to be the optimum exposure balance between the ambient light and the Godox 600 BM, which is what Tina, you can see Tina right here, she's holding it. She does this for all our family shoots. She's my assistant. It kind of drives her batty because I'm telling her what to do. And let me go to the other image. I'll explain this a little bit more. So here's the one that I'm going to work on right now. So Tina is in there over to the side. She's lighting it up. So when we were done this shoot, the next day I had downloaded that night and resized all my images to proof size. And I was looking at them, I was like, I'm really happy with the results, which is a good thing, you know. I get a nice balance between the main light and the background scene. And what I'm trying to achieve is I don't want the background to be too dark and or too light. If it's too light, it'll be blown out, especially when you have falls. There's people back here. And when I was shooting these guys, I told them, I said, there's people in the background. It's a really busy place. I said, but I'll take them out later. So I always preemptively tell them that. And so I was looking at the images and I was wondering, how the hell do I don't really use a technique anymore. And I haven't been using a technique for a long, long time when it comes to creating the best output and or the best shutter speed / aperture. So I was very happy with the results, and I thought, I'm going to explain this to my wife, Tina, so she can understand where I'm coming from, although she doesn't really need to know this information. I'll explain it to you, what I explained to her, for the benefit of everybody, and hopefully it's beneficial. So when I always use a tripod, by the way. The only time I don't use a tripod is when I'm have to run around and chase kids and or doing a wedding, and I have limited time. So you will get better results using a tripod, so it's highly recommended. So I'm shooting with the 85 mil. I try and go as wide as possible, typically around f4. If I can go to 1.8, I will do 1.8. But that's tricky because you got to get everybody on the same plane. So I don't want to push my luck there. I have done large groups at 2.8 with like 200 mil lenses. But 85 mil I find is a really, really sharp lens. It's a very, very good lens. It's a good focal length. So, and I'm shooting, I believe, you know what? I'm going to tell you right now. File info. F4. So 100 ISO for everything. 1/125th of a second, which to me is a little bit slow, although I could go handheld. So what I do is I go like F4. I don't touch the ISO. And I adjust the shutter speed because the shutter speed will determine the ambient light. And then I have the Godox radio transmitter which fires the flash, and I can also adjust the output to that flash, which I love. I freaking love that idea. Don't you? And what I do is I guess it. So I do a shot. I was trying to think, how do I determine it? I don't. I just go gut feel. I look at the images. I take a guess. I look at the scene. I go, boo. And then I adjust. And usually the first shot is 80% in. I will have to make minor tweaks. And I'm ordering my wife around. I'm saying, I need you to bring it in. And I explain to her, I says, don't take it personal when I'm giving you orders. You know, I'm adjusting the light. We're painting with light. So the direction and distance and all that stuff to do with lighting is really, really key. And that's what I'm after. And I'm not really thinking of a technique and or something too scientific when it comes to adjusting and determining best exposure for these types of shots. And I suppose after 42 years of doing this and working in a dark room and working with people and working with flashes, yada, 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 you kind of intuitively sort of know what it is you're after. I've noticed that over the last 3-4 decades, going to seminars and workshops and working with especially these older, more seasoned photographers. They seem to have that. It gives you sort of a level of mastery and confidence. I'm not saying it to brag. I'm just saying that to say that it is a skill set that allows me to sort of work that way. So there's no hard, fast rule in that sense. You got to stop and think. The best thing you can do, set up the pose, stop and think. Just take a deep breath, look at the scene. What is the best combination of shutter speed, aperture, light output to create the best results for this particular shot? So, all right, so let's move forward. This image here is full size, and I'm going to show you that. It's 22 inches and a bit at 350 pixels. We send all our stuff to the lab at 200. So if I needed to go extra physical size, I bring my resolution down, hit the resample, and now I've got instant almost 40 inches if I need a large canvas. All my stuff goes to the lab at 200. So I will do this for larger wall portraits. I got lots and lots of detail to work with. I know a lot of photographers are sending their stuff at 300, and it's like, it's a religious conviction. I'm telling you right now, you don't need anything more than 200. Visually, you can't see the difference. And I know that because we sell a lot of stuff and our clients are really happy. So I'm going to hit cancel on this one. So, and I shoot raw JPEG, by the way. I know a lot of people have a hard time with that one. So I've been shooting JPEG since day one. I've experimented with raw over and over again. I do not see a visual difference for me. So James and I, we used to teach digital photography back in the early 2000s. And we used to say this all the time: get it right in camera. 99% of your success is getting it right in camera. So it's something I, to this day, abide by and live by. So I know a lot of you are going like, no, I'm still shooting raw, and that's cool. We can still be friends, right? Okay, so this is a big image. Now, this image here is only going to go 8x10. If it was going to go wall portrait, I would not size it down. But I have an action, Shift F4, and it brings it down to 12x8 at 200. Okay, I do that. It saves me time. So everything I do on my workflow is all run on by actions, and I'm just firing them off left, right, and center. So the next thing I do is camera raw filter. I do not run an action for that unless I'm doing something that's very consistent, like fairy day images. And I'll hit auto edit. Okay. You see, hardly didn't really do a whole lot. So what I'll do is I'll bring the highlights down, pull in a little more detail, and I'll bring the whites down, pull in a little more detail, because I'm going to punch that up later. You can play with texture, clarity, and dehaze, which I occasionally do, but mostly don't. There's the white balance, which I don't really touch. You can go to auto. It kind of warms it up quite a bit, but it's not what I want. I'm going to warm it up manually later. So what I'm after is that tonal range between shadows and highlights. And that's why I use the raw filter. I love the raw filter. It's just like a godsend. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the mids a bit. I have an action for that. See, curves. I should do it manually just to show you what I had done. Curves. I have an action, and all it does is mid-tone. See, that's all it is. And that's what I just applied. So I'm gonna go in, and before I do anything else, let me do one more thing. I have an action for this, and it's add black. So I'm going to go to blacks. You can add black. See that? So I have an action that's like, I think it's like +8. Just adds that little punch. So let's go into the background. And I'm going to retouch these guys out. I'm going to crank up that opacity. So I'm using the clone brush, good old-fashioned clone brush. Boom, boom. I've taken a million courses on Lightroom, but I never use it. You know, when you get so used to, yeah, see that? I went back in history there. I was going into his hair, so I fixed it. When you have you're so used to doing everything in Photoshop. I find Lightroom pretty much is the same thing as Photoshop. It's just a different layout. And I know a lot of people love Lightroom, and that's good. We can still be friends. Will you be my friend? I'm going to lower down the opacity. And I'm going to just go in and just give that a little Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo-Dah. I don't know what that blue is there back there. Okay, so I have... in Raw Editor, there's a radial brush where you can darken, like vignette, the background. I didn't do that for this image. I have two basic actions. The first one that I can use, it's very, very intense. See, it creates a duplicate layer of the image and puts on a multiply, and so it darkens everything. So I can go in and just erase the middle. Okay, it's very, very strong. See, that's fine. I won't use it for an image like this. I have another action which creates an adjustment layer, and then I use the black background right here to start erasing. Let's bring that up a bit. Boom, 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 boom. So I darken all around. So the basic workflow is done. Okay, I did this probably half speed or less because I'm recording this. So, oh, I will do this. I'll add a little bit of red. Just a little bit, you know, between 5 and 10. I often will do adjustment, selective color. It goes default to red channel and knock in some cyan. You see how it adds red to the skin? I used to do that all the time. This because we got blood, right? We're made of blood, and it comes through our pigment. So if you add red or take away cyan in the red channel, it'll really warm up the skin tones. Okay, but I kind of do this a bit because I want to warm up the entire image. So just want to make sure we're still recording. So I'm going to open up the midtones just a hair more. So what I'm going to do for this image, because I don't think it needs a whole lot of burning, I'm just going to give it a little bit of the burn tool. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to go in. I have an action for this. Let's Shift F11. Nope, wrong one. Boom, boom. See, I'm nervous. I'm nervous now. I'm going to go find it and run it manually. It's called Light and Eye. Shift F2. There it is. I don't remember what I did. I don't remember. I know this much. It's an adjustment layer of sorts. And its job is to go in and paint in the eyes. Don't know if I made this action or if I got it off the interwebs. Okay, but I love it. And if anybody can tell me how it works, let me know, please. So I punch up the eyes for everybody. I do this on all my portraits. Just punch it up a little tiny bit. Boom, boom, boom. These kids were really shy, by the way, and he was shy, but he was acting out. He was being really bad. Made it very hard on me. She was really, really shy, but she came around, but he wouldn't get rid of this goofy expression. He was doing it on purpose, totally on purpose. I got a couple smiles, but over 95% of the shots, he was doing this. I told the mom and dad, I said, yeah, he's not really, and they were like, whatever, we don't care. All right, you don't care, I'm fine. I like to get good expressions, and this was unusual. Okay, so I did the eyes. Now, use the clone, and I'm going to go usually between 20 and 30. Let's go 24. That works. Clone. See, we're in the clone. And they're going to start erasing out some of the lines a little bit, just a little bit. Let's get rid of those lines. And Mama Bear is going to we're going to get rid of some of her lines. She's got some of those on the side there. I'll get rid of those. Kids, a little bit. They have kind of circles under their eyes. I don't want to take them out, but let's just tap them a little bit. I also bring treats, and I have a squeaky toy that I bought at a pet store for the families that I had dogs. Okay, now I have an action which opens the curves. Let me run it manually. There it is, Shift F10, right? Okay, opens the curves, and I have another axis called yellow teeth, and it goes through selective color and takes the yellow out of the white channel and yellow out of the yellow channel. So I'll run both those, and I'll go back in history, and I'll click on the history state for the latest one. I'll hit the history brush, high opacity. I'll even go to 100 almost, and then I'll erase out the yellow. I used to select the teeth and run those actions, and I'm like, why am I doing that? I can just go use the history brush. I love the history brush. It's such a cool and easy tool. I have an action for sharpening. See that? On sharp mask, it's just very generic. And then I have an action for my soft focus, which is called, what did I call it? I'll tell you in a minute. It's called Airbrush Separation. So I love this. I've been using so many different softening techniques over the years, and I've been using this one for like 8 or 9 years. I love it. So opacity maximum 10. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to start with Mama Bear, and I'm going to erase the soft into her skin. Okay, she's going to get a little bit more. I notice she's got a little bit of doodah right there. I can easily go in and fix that. And it mimics and is largely a cheating version for a frequency separation look. And it works really, really well. A little bit on the kids. I gave Dad just a little bit. Now I'll go large. I'll give it a little more dabs in the front. I'll go all around. And we're finished. So we're going to flatten and save. So this is done. Okay, let me show you before and after. That way you can see the difference. There's before, there's after. Before, after. I did this 2-3 times slower than I normally would do it. Pretty fast, you know, you just get used to it after years and years of doing this. And if there's something you have a question about this, let me know. Put it in the comments, and I'll answer to the best of my ability. And I hope this has given you some sort of an idea how we do our workflow. Did I mention I shoot JPEG? I don't shoot RAW. I did, yeah. I used to say back in the early 2000s when James Hodgins and I were teaching digital photography, because it was so new back then, we used to say, get it right in camera, 99% of your problems or issues will be resolved. And I like to save time because, you know, back in those days, I was doing 700-800 sessions a year. I didn't want to be running all this heavy software doing RAW. So shooting JPEG, I couldn't see the difference. And I always used to say, I know it sounds like I'm being a bit of a smart ass, but I used to say, when I go to the bank and I deposit my deposit every week, the teller never asked me, did you shoot RAW or JPEG to make this money? Sorry. But yeah, it works. And I know a lot of people don't like that because they're 100% married to RAW, and that's perfectly fine. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Hope this has helped. Thanks, and I'm out of here.